and welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, disaster planning, crisis management, COVID, resilience, anything that's relatable to those topics. And it's anything that helps you, your corporation, or your community plan for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If there is a topic you'd like us to talk about on the show or you'd like to be a guest, please feel free. Go to my LinkedIn page for Alex Fullick. I'm the only one on there, so you can't miss me. Send me a message and I will respond to everything, and we'll see about getting you on the show or finding someone to talk about the topic you'd like us to touch on. Longtime listeners, especially the Voice America people, will know that I talked about the Business Continuity Institute Virtual World Conference in 2020, held in November, that I would be presenting there, and that I hope to be able to get some of the other speakers at that conference to come on the show and talk about their topics and share their ideas. And today is one of those days. So I'd like to welcome to the show and on the topic of the BCI, CPD, and mentoring. And we're going to find out what all that is today with Russ Parramore. Russ, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Now, we have literally have people around the globe listening and watching. So could you take a minute or two and tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this industry as well?
Yes, that's fine. So I was formerly a police officer in the UK, a job I did for 30 years, and had many sort of adventures through that. Got involved with a lot of high-profile work, did some national work, was the coordinator for victim recovery at one time, and worked in sending police officers over to the tsunami in 2005. So I got that sort of work. I did some high-profile political and royal visits, and generally had a good 30 years. I retired from the police in 2010, and at that stage I decided to get further employment, and I went to work for the Fire and Rescue Service in the UK. And I got a job as an emergency planning officer, something that I was sort of quite familiar with from the police days. And I was also, on my first day in, I was given a big pile of papers that said business continuity. And just the encouragement that you need, sort that out. So that was my first sort of introduction to business continuity. So I did a lot of background work on that, and I got a 120-page document down to 2.5 pages within about 3 months, and then sort of started again and built on that. So the business continuity only started 10 years ago. So what I've done since then, I've progressed the BC with the fire service. I've gone on to chairing the National Fire Chiefs Council Business Continuity Group, and generally it now forms a big part of my day. So I do actually have my own consultancy business as well now, which sort of complements all the other things that I do.
Gee, for someone who retired back in 2010, you kind of have a lot on your plate.
I like to keep busy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll ever retire properly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough to do that these days, just walk away from something. It's interesting how you came into business continuity, though, had a bunch of stuff dumped on in front of you. That's exactly how I came into it, too. Just here. It's like, what's this?
Yeah, and I do find that and we'll talk about mentoring later, but a lot of the people that come into the mentoring schemes are people that have either just been employed to do a BC job that's never done it before, or somebody's just been given a sideways move. So that tends to be the way that there's not many people go through college and university and say, I want to be a business continuity manager. And I think it tends to stem from other things.
It's true. After just shy of 4 years of interviewing a couple of hundred people now, from all around the globe, the vast majority have said the same thing. I didn't go to school for this. It just kind of fell in my lap,
Yeah.
including me. I'm one of those people too. So let's talk about the first part that we're going to chat about today, and that is CPD. What is CPD? And
Right.
what's it stand for, and can you explain it?
Yeah, so CPD is simply continual professional development. So basically, it involves people who are wanting to do something in their own work life. They're wanting to improve themselves. They're wanting to achieve something, and they generally just want to understand things better and do things better, and gain more knowledge about the subject area which they're actually working in. So that's what it is. So in order to get that sort of additional understanding, there are various ways that you can do that, and there are some simple ways: attending conferences, listening to key speakers, going to seminars, listening to webinars. The BCI are particularly keen on CPD, and through the BCI there is a method of recording your continual professional development, and it does allow you to track all the learning that you've done, and accumulate so many hours over the year. But it's about that networking. It's about taking part in webinars, being involved in exercises and actually doing things. And it literally is all CPD is actually enhancing the learning that you've already got.
So why does CPD exist in the first place then? Because if that's, part of it sounds like, your daily business as usual role for many people. So how does CPD, or why does it exist, above and beyond that? What's it doing for you?
It gives you the opportunity to concentrate on getting that wider experience. That if you were just doing your business continuity role at work and there was one or two other people there that were doing a similar role, then you talk to them and you bounce off them and you get the information. Going through CPD actually makes you concentrate on, well, I do need to do some seminars, I do need to go to some conferences, I need to go to a BCI chapter meeting, and listen to what other people are doing. And it gives you that rounded experience of all different private and public sector areas. And somebody may have dealt with a particular incident and you listen to that, and then 6 months later down the line, the same incident or a similar one happens within your own organization, and you get that additional, I can remember that somebody said about this and this is what they did and it didn't work, so let's not try that, let's try something different. Mm-hmm. So it's all about that wider networking and building up your contacts, people that you can actually get in touch with at short notice and say, does anybody know about this? And every time you go to a meeting or you go to a chapter event or a conference, you meet new people and you get those contacts, and you learn something new every time.
So would I be correct in saying that BCI CPD helps you not just enhance your own knowledge, but build the knowledge for your own organization or wherever it is you work, so that you kind of don't experience some of the negative things other organizations have experienced, but you can also experience some of the positive things from others that you may not experience if you weren't part of this network?
Oh, definitely so. If I sat at work within the fire service waiting for a business continuity incident to happen, I might have 3 or 4 a year, and the rest of the time I'll be sat there twiddling my thumbs. But actually going out there, and even at this time when we're stuck inside for most of the time, and due to the COVID, it's actually given me a real good opportunity to dial into many more seminars and conferences than I would normally. So it's been really beneficial from that point of view.
Just out of curiosity, why do we track this though? Why does the BCI, if you know, why does the BCI need to know that that Russ and I are meeting today? What's in it for them? What does the CPD do for BCI?
Right. So the BCI have a membership scheme. And there are various grades within the membership scheme. So when you first join, you join as an affiliate member, and you then progress and you go through the grades, and you can go through through membership and into fellowship. In order to progress through the grades, you have to demonstrate that you're actively involved in business continuity, and that actually the CPD log on the BCI website allows me to enter not just the meetings and things like that I do too, but all the mentoring I do. It allows me to show when I've been involved in particular BC incidents, exercises. So what it's doing for me is actually keeping a record of my history. So when you come to the grade of fellow, which I only achieved last year, you have to demonstrate 10 years worth of business continuity progression. Well, actually just trying to remember all that would be really difficult. So to be able to look back on your history is really useful for that.
And I think today counts too, if I recall. I was chatting for an hour today. So I don't know how many points it is, but I think it counts for something. Have you been interviewed or participated in something?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to record too many hours. I think you only actually have to record about 24 hours a year. I think for the last 3 years I've recorded over 300 hours. So, but I do a lot. That's and I tend to record what I do.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned the grades of membership. With those grades, and I think you kind of touched on it, I would assume that CPD requirements would vary for these membership grades, correct? Like you'd have to attend more things if you want a higher grade.
Yeah, there's different there are different criteria, and it's not just about the recording of the CPD. It's about, did you go to a conference? Yes, you might have. Have you ever organized a conference? Have you delivered at a conference? It breaks things down into a lot of different areas, and so for a member, you may only have to say that you've attended so many events and one thing or another, but for a fellow, they want to show that you're actually passing on that knowledge and telling other people about things, delivering maybe messages into the community, and there's all sorts of different aspects. Fellow, you've got to have 10 years, and for membership, it's 3 years, and for associate member, it's only 1 year. So obviously, if you're just going for the associate member, all you've got to do basically is say, I've got a job in business continuity, and I've looked at a couple of BIAs and a plan, and you've got it sufficient there to say that actually you're active.
So it just makes it more, I don't want to use the word challenging, but there are more, you have to have a bigger resume, let's say, to get some of the higher levels, right?
Which is a natural progression over if you've been doing it for 10 years, then obviously you've done that. Because I would say that if you're not really into business continuity and it's not your favorite subject, you probably aren't going to stop in it for 10 years.
Yeah, and tracking and monitoring the CPD helps validate that, I meet all these requirements for FBCI or MBCI, whichever one.
Yeah.
I meet these requirements, and here's all my proof in the CPD.
Yeah, that's right. It's an easy way of actually recording things and like you say, for myself, actually remembering what I've done.
Mm-hmm. I keep a full file folder now, and if I attend a webinar, I keep some sort of proof that I was there, so that if I have to provide any information, it's like, great, here's my entire folder. Here you go. Here's all these confirmations or certificates or whatever the case may be. Confirmations of membership and things like that, and there we go, all done.
That's right.
Because if I don't, you said it earlier, I wouldn't remember what I did for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that's right. But I mean, you've got to think as well. There are also a lot of business continuity practitioners that have probably never even been involved with the BCI. But I know I get this with some of the mentoring as well. Is he actually talk to people? And the one thing I always tell them to do is make sure you record what you're doing. Don't matter where you do it, how you do it, whether it's on a system or in a folder. That don't matter. You need to be able to look back on what you've done and what you've learned from that.
You've mentioned this word a couple of times already today. Mentoring. What is mentoring?
Okay, well, mentoring is quite simply helping somebody else to improve their own personal circumstances and the business work. So mentoring is a one-to-one. So it involves somebody who wants to try and achieve something, or in fact they've been given a task to do through the work, and they may be not quite sure the best way to progress, and they then can look for a mentor, somebody to help them. Sometimes this just happens naturally in the workplace, so it may be that they're working with somebody who's able to do that. On other occasions, particularly with business continuity, because a lot of organisations may only have one business continuity manager, so then they may need to look elsewhere to try and find the information that they need. And mentoring is just a way of two people talking to each other and helping the mentee to progress through the work life.
Now, does the mentor need to be someone in the business continuity industry, or can it be anybody? I would assume somebody in the industry might be better positioned, but which is, what do you think?
Right, so it's not 100% needed, because what you actually do, once you form this relationship, you actually are looking at the needs of the individual. So if that individual is doing something, for instance, a guy in the US last year was looking to achieve certification for his company for ISO 27001, which is the ICT standards. He came to me to be mentored in that, and his sole aim was to be able to achieve the certificate to say that they were certified to 27001. I'm not an IT person, but I can read the regulations, I can read the standard, I know what the standard requires. But it was more about helping him to achieve what he needed to do. So he would be looking at a specific area and saying, I need to do this, but I don't really know how to do it. And it's about talking things like that through with people and allowing them to come up with their own solutions as a result of our conversation. The mentoring is all about the mentee. And I would never turn to somebody in a mentoring situation and say, you must do this. This is what you have to do. It's about exploring what they need to do, and then for them to come up with the solutions, and also them to come up with the timeframes as well.
Now, I was going to touch on that. I was going to ask you, what are some of the characteristics of a good mentor, and how do you recognize someone that's not going to be a good mentor? And you kind of skimmed the surface a little bit there on that.
Okay, so in order to be a mentor, you've got to be a really good listener. You've got to be able to sit there for an hour and hardly say a word and just listen to what people are saying. And just putting the odd question in, similar to the interviewing that you're doing now, where you will ask a question and then you expect me to speak for a few minutes. It's that sort of situation in a mentoring situation where they're actually saying, I need to do this. And I might say, well, how do you think you might achieve that? And then they might talk for 5 minutes about what they might do. And they might come up with various ways. And then my next thing would be, well, in that case, which one of those do you think would work best? Which would you like to try? And then they talk again. So it's you've got to be really good at listening. You've got to be very positive. What the last thing the mentee wants to hear is, well, that's really difficult. That it's going to take you 2 years to do that. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that. And I might be thinking that. I might be thinking, well, that piece of work that they're just talking about there is probably going to take 2 years. But what I might be doing is saying to them, we need to do that in very bite-sized chunks. So what do you think you need to do first? Let them talk about that. And then potentially say, well, okay, and agree on they're going to do a certain thing over the next 6 weeks. And then we'll meet again, and then we'll talk about it again, and then we'll see what we need to progress to. And the whole process may take 2 years. But actually, if I just turn around to somebody at the beginning and say, that's really difficult, it's going to take you 2 years, they're just going to switch off. So you've got to be very, very sort of positive and good at planning. The planning aspect is really important. Yeah, I took on a new mentee yesterday, and she got a certain amount of work that she needs to do and certain things she wants to achieve. And we looked at timescales. We looked at, how long do you think? So one thing that she said, I think I probably need about a year to do this. Well, actually, that was the other way around. And I said, right, okay, then what do you need to do in bite-sized chunks? And she went through it, and she's ended up going away, and we're potentially looking about 3 months to do the whole thing. But she's got a section of that to do, which she's said she's going to do in the next 3 weeks. Absolutely fine. So it's about listening. It's about planning. It's about encouraging and motivating that person to go and do it. Particularly if it's something that they've been given at work. Here's a task. Can you complete this task? And I want it done for next Tuesday. And then they might come to me and say, actually, I've been told to do this for next Tuesday, but I think there's a month's work. And sometimes you can talk that through, and actually they can complete enough over the next few days to keep their management happy and that know what they're doing and how they're progressing. So it's actually giving them that confidence, the encouragement and the motivation to actually go and do it themselves, and not just, be sat there thinking that it's going to take me, it's too difficult, this is going to take me too long.
It sounds like there's something else there. You're helping people plan, because you said, in bite-sized chunks, but you're also addressing maybe it, maybe you don't, but it came to my mind, some of their anxieties when people are presented with these big projects, using the 2-year example that you talked about. It's like 2 years to do this. Oh my God. But then with a mentor, you can break it down and go, oh, actually, that's not so bad. I can achieve things. You're helping them that way.
That's right. And that's what it's about. I think it's about the mentor getting enthusiastic about the subject, helping them to come up with some solutions, and for them to actually go away. And the one yesterday, I said, do you want to meet again in about 6 weeks and see how we're going? Oh, no, I want to go and do it. Can we come back in 3 weeks? I'll have it done. And it was like, as opposed to the initial stages where she was just sort of a little bit frightened about what was going to happen. So it really is getting that person into a more confident stage so that they can actually go and do it for themselves.
Now, how do you go about finding a mentor? In either in anything or just, BCI, how do you go about finding one, and, what motivates people to want to have a mentor? Because sometimes there is the old perception of, a mentor is a boss who's telling you what to do. That perception is still out there.
Yeah, and that's where you've got to have that understanding of the difference between a coach and a mentor and a manager and a teacher. They're all slightly different. But to actually go and find one, as I said before, potentially you might just find one in your own organisation. And a lot of organisations actually advertise that they do a mentoring scheme within the organisation. So that's probably your first starting point. If you haven't got that, the BCI is really very good at this. They have the mentoring scheme through the BCI. And once you're registered with the BCI, you appear on the community directory, which is just a list of all the members. And within that list, you can tick a box that say, I would like to be a mentor, I would like to be mentored, etc., etc. So if you are a new person in BC and you join the BCI, you can look in the community directory, you can do a search, and you can tick a box that says mentor, and it will just bring you up all the people that are currently mentors within the BCI. And then it's very simple, because it's another click on a box and it says send a message to the mentor, and that gets the conversation going. The other way that it works, and I use this more often, is that as a mentor, I can search for people that want to be mentored. So I can look on there to all the people, and because I look on that quite regular, I can see all the new ones that's appeared, that's only just appeared on that list. And it's the same thing. I can send them a message saying, I've just noticed that you're asking for a mentor. Do you want to have a conversation, see what you want to try and achieve, and see whether I'll be suitable for you? And then they respond to me, and sometimes we become a partnership, and sometimes we say, actually, no, I don't think I'm the right person, but I know somebody who might be. Try these. So it's the whole scheme with the BCI is very useful for doing that.
How would you know if you're the right mentor for someone? Is there some sort of criteria? Is it something that they're asking about that you don't know about in the industry? Or, how do you know that, hey, I'm not the right person, or I am the right person?
All right. So the first initial conversations that you have is about what they want to try and to achieve. And for instance, a couple of years ago, I had one person come to me that wanted to learn about business continuity, but also wanted to learn about corporate risk. And corporate risk is not one of my particular areas of expertise. So what we did with that, I knew somebody else that was really into that, and we both mentored this person. One for myself for BC and the other person for risk, and doing it that way, she got two mentors. But on that initial conversation, you get to know somebody, you get to know what they're wanting to do. And you also get a feel for that. Are they going to be the right person? Are you going to get on all right? You've got to be able to talk to each other. You've got to be able to trust each other, and you have to build that trust up. And it's all about just getting on with somebody. And if sometimes you might get 3 months down the line, and you might actually be saying, well, I don't think this is really working. I think it might be better with somebody else, and that's fine, because you need to have that two-way flow all the time, and you've got to be able to talk to each other.
So it's acceptable to have to be able to have more than one mentor, depending on the subject then.
Absolutely no problem at all. Just been working with somebody down in Florida that has been trying to achieve a specific thing, and I think she's got 4 mentors at the moment.
Wow.
But for the thing that she wanted to do recently, then I was the one that was best placed to help.
Oh, interesting. How do you, I got to put a positive spin on this. How do you know when you've come to the end of her mentoringship? And I don't mean, kind of what you touched on, that, it's not working out, but how do you know you've come to the end, like, hey, you don't need any more mentoring type thing?
No, so obviously to start with, you have your initial objectives and you work through those, and after a period, maybe 6 months, 12 months, you get to a stage where you've achieved all that, and you're still talking about what do you want to do next, how do you want to achieve that, and then what you do is you say, well, actually, do you still want me to mentor you in relation to anything else, or do you want to go it alone now for a while? But I always leave it that if ever you want to get in touch with me, I'll always be at the end of the phone. And funnily enough, I've just had one this morning who I mentored for about 3 years in total, who's just been away from work for over a year. And she actually just sent me a message this morning saying, can we start the mentoring sessions again? She's got a slightly different job to what she had before, and so it's all that's how it is. Things change, so and I always leave it with them and say, right, okay, if you need any more help, just get in touch. But otherwise, I'll just monitor what you're doing. And by that time, you've got your connections on your social media sites and everything else. You know them, you know how to get in touch with them, and you can sort of watch how they're progressing anyway. And again, if I saw somebody who was trying to do something, I might just ring them up and say, "You all right with that?" Because that's how it is, really. You build up that. It's a professional relationship, but you become friends, you become mates over a period of time, because you talk to them so regularly.
Oh, nice. Earlier in the show, you talked and mentioned about Fire Chiefs Council. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, okay. So the National Fire Chiefs Council is basically a body of senior fire officers in the UK. And through that body, they govern and deliver a lot of plans and ideas and strategies that go out to all fire chiefs, and each fire chief can implement things usually as they want to. But it's a big national organisation. It links into the Home Office, into government, and basically that's the link between the UK government and all the fire and rescue services. The National Fire Chief Council have a lot of different working groups, as you can imagine, and one of those working groups is the Business Continuity Group, which is a group that I chair. And I've been chairing that now for almost 6 years. So the invitation is for every fire and rescue service in the UK, which is 50 services, to have representation within that group, and then we can talk about all the business continuity issues that are happening, and potentially going to happen, and we make plans and we do everything like that. So we've sort of been running at about 25 people turning up for a meeting, which was sort of okay, but it wasn't getting that real buy-in. But then, of course, what happened was COVID came along, and COVID was really important for us because all the services were then directed, you need to do this, you need to do that. We were talking as a group about what we thought, and we were feeding back in to say, these are the ways forward, these are the things we need to be doing nationally. So over the last 9-10 months now, we're actually getting in excess of 40 people to each meeting, and we're now actually meeting once a fortnight because it's like been really busy. So that's what the group's about. That's about sharing and getting a consistent standard throughout the whole of the UK fire and rescue.
Just out of curiosity, the business continuity topics you talk about, it's just for the fire services, or do you take some of that learning and take that to communities and or organizations? Do you get involved?
Yeah, we do that. What we try and do is discuss relevant topics within the group, and that can be anything. It could be business interruptions that's occurred, how people have coped with them, how we're preparing for other things. Each of the fire services then go back to their own service, and they're able to spread that information throughout their own service and take back the bits that are useful. And we also, in the UK, we have something called local resilience forums. The local resilience forums are regionally based. So if I go to our South Yorkshire local resilience forum, there will be all our local authorities, there will be the ambulance service, the police, there'll be health, environment agency, utilities, all those people. And within those areas, we also have business continuity groups. So what we learn from one, we take back to others, and it gets shared really widely. But we also bring back the information from those groups and feed those back into the fire service. So it's just part of the whole system, really.
Oh, I see. Now, I want to ask you, because you talked about mentoring, we had a big segment there about mentoring. How do you mentor individuals that are in fire services or police services? Because I'm thinking there's got to be a difference with people that are out in the field, putting themselves in danger, with those, a person like me who sits behind a desk. There's got to be a difference between how mentoring is handled there, and there's got to be different stress levels involved.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing about mentoring, is that every mentor and every mentee is different. And that's why the relationship's important to start with. So I've got 30 years experience in the police, working out on the streets, working in difficult situations. But for the last 10 years, I've worked in an office. So I'm quite well placed to actually be able to do that. Within the National Fire Chiefs Council Business Continuity Group, we've actually got our own mentoring scheme. And just it took us 2 years to get that off the ground. And we ended up with 4 mentors and 7 mentees. That was the situation at the beginning of last year. And that was people from different services, different parts of the country, just helping each other along. And then we got COVID-19. We've now got, and I checked this yesterday, we've now got 8 mentors, and we're currently mentoring 20 people. That's how it's increased. So what we've got both support staff and operational firefighters that have been brought into the business continuity remit over the last few months, over the last year. Some of them have got a little bit of business continuity experience. Some have just got operational experience. Some have got very little at all. And what I do as the chair of that group is I match the mentors with the people that need mentoring. So I've got somebody in one service who was a former firefighter that then retired and came back as a business continuity manager, and I will give him some of the people that are operational. So because he's got more of an operational, or I'll take some of them myself because I understand some of the stresses and strains around the jobs. I mean, I'm quite fortunate in myself in that I personally got other things. So I'm a mentor for the for police, for fire service women in the region, and that involves operational people. And I'm also a member of what we call our critical incident welfare support team, which is when, say, a fire crew go out to a particularly nasty, fatal incident or something of that nature, then they can have this welfare support team. So I would go out with one other person and we actually sit and talk to them. And actually, we're not talking about the incident, we're talking about how it's affected their emotions.
Now that's exactly what I was going to ask about. Is there a danger of some of the incidents that these we'll stick with fire, but fire personnel go through when you're trying to mentor them, because mental health has got to come into play somewhere in some of these incidents, and it's got to affect the mentor and the mentee.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's about what the critical incident welfare support is about understanding what their issues may be and pointing them in the right direction for any specialist support that they may need, and that sort of thing, as opposed to just debriefing an incident, which is about what did we do, did it go right, did it go wrong, in which case very often not willing to say very much just in case they did it wrong and then they're going to get told off for it later. In the welfare support, it's not about that. It's about just getting to the bottom of what they're feeling about it. How do they feel about that incident last night? How's it affecting them? And we have all sorts of there's follow-ups and there are ways of actually monitoring people, but it's all about pointing them to the right people and the right medical advice or whatever it might be.
What happens when a mentor starts feeling that anxiety from hearing these stories from a mentee? How does a mentor manage that? What should they do? Pull themselves away from it, or like how would you deal with that if you were mentoring me and I was Lord forbid telling you some of these terrible things that I'm going through as part of being a police officer or a fire person? How do you manage that on your side?
Right. So personally, it's never occurred, simply because I think you'd have to be awful to actually be any worse than some of the things I've witnessed myself. So, but the mentors themselves, we have a mentor group. We have a WhatsApp group that we talk to each other on, and so we've always got that support for each other. And the same with the critical incident welfare support group. That's the same. We've got people that we can turn to. So if we always help each other out.
Yeah, I know mentors help people, but sometimes the helpers need a helping hand as well. We've only got 3.5 minutes left. Do you have any final comments for a minute or two on either CPD mentoring or fire and rescue?
I think really they all tie together very, very well. Business continuity, CPD, learning how to do things, the mentoring schemes, they help people to achieve what they want to achieve. And obviously not just for fire and rescue, but this goes out much wider to other organisations. Through the BCI, I mentor people in private industry. I have somebody in Milan that I'm into. I've got somebody in the European Parliament that I'm mentoring. They're not the whole thing just ties together really nicely. So you can actually mentor people in any sort of walk of life, really. What's really nice is actually the mentor learns an awful lot as well from the people that they're talking to. So if somebody started talking to me about procedures in European Parliament, then actually I've got a bit of an understanding of that now because I've been dealing with somebody in there for some time. So I think it's all really, really important. And the more that we can do mentoring, the more that we can look at getting the younger, newer people completing CPD, the better practitioners we're going to have for the future. And that, to me, that's what it's all about, is actually making sure I've achieved what I can achieve. My achievements now is seeing other people that actually do something and make an impression and win awards and everything else. I've been there, done that. I'm quite happy now to nominate other people that I've been working with and see them achieving things. And I think that's what it's about. And I think that's what the BCI is about as well. Get the newer members, get the younger members, bring them in early, train them properly, and then the future's got to be better for everybody.
And I think that's a great spot to end. Russ, thanks very much. I really like your points about, it's really about helping people, and, they take that back and they help people. So, it carries it forward. And in the end, that just makes, our communities, our organizations and individuals hopefully more resilient, more knowledgeable, and, they help out everyone else. So I really appreciate your time and expertise today. Thank you very much. And, thanks for your service too in the police and fire services. People like you, we look to you. So you're a perfect mentor, for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Thank you for inviting me along.
And to everybody who's listening and or watching, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave a message and let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about something related to business continuity, disaster management, COVID, personal well-being, anything that's relatable to those subjects, you can reach me through my LinkedIn profile, which is in the video description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.